The city's motto is first in service. Want to know what city we're talking about? Gotta watch this morning's Carolina People. Coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Fox 43 studio. We're focused on public information. We're visiting with the Public Information Officer for the City of Myrtle Beach, Mark Kruea. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in.
I'm happy to do it.
Got a nice firm handshake
absolutely.
there. Golly, it's like a big hand coming in. Great to have you in.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
We've been thinking about this for a long time, and so oftentimes, I guess you really have to, you maintain that position as the spokesperson for the city, but at the same time, there's always a desire to encourage folks to talk to their elected officials.
Absolutely. Get involved in the government. Let us know what you think. Let us know what's on your mind. If you have an issue, tell us. We'll be happy to try to work to resolve it. We're glad to hear from people.
And the city of Myrtle Beach has so many folks. You know, it's fascinating visiting the website early this morning, seeing that at citymyrtlebeach.com the incredible numbers of levels of aspects of the city and how many folks work within the city.
Well, we're a corporation just like Target or McDonald's or IBM. About $100 million a year, actually, is the city's budget. But we're a small town, 23,000 full-time residents, and yet in the summertime, say between middle of May and Labor Day, we may have 200,000 or 300,000 people in town at any given point in time. So we have to be able to meet those needs. In other words, we have to have staff and equipment and supplies to handle the peak demand as well as the regular demand during the wintertime.
You know, it's so fascinating. So many outlying areas jump onto the name Myrtle Beach all the time. In Conway, you'll see the Myrtle Beach Glass Company, or, I mean, you know, you'll see different businesses that grab onto that Myrtle Beach name, albeit far outside of the boundaries of the city of Myrtle Beach. You just said 23,000 permanent residents. Who would have ever guessed?
I know, it feels much bigger than that on a daily basis. We think our average daily service population is about 100,000. We have about 800 full-time employees, which is about 3 times what your typical town of 23,000 is going to have. But we're a full-service community. We do fire, police, water, sewer, solid waste collection, parks, recreation, planning, zoning, all those basic things, and yet we've got 10 miles of beach that we have to clean every day starting at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Ocean Boulevard to take care of, and a water and sewer treatment plant that'll handle 400,000 people on the 4th of July. So it's a very busy place.
Golly, Mark, that is fascinating when you sit back and think about certain aspects like that. Real quick about yourself. Were you originally from the area?
I grew up in North Carolina, so I'm not too far away from home. And shoot, in the summertime we'd come down on vacation, typically in the North Myrtle Beach area, but as far south as Murrells Inlet too.
It wasn't Brunswick County beaches or New Hanover area?
No, my family, when they go to the beach now, does typically end up in North Carolina, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But as a kid growing up, we always came to the Myrtle Beach area.
And now, where was home growing up?
Home growing up was Salisbury, North Carolina.
Oh, really?
So,
great.
yeah.
Sure. Well, that was a direct shot down, kind of. I mean, on some back roads and otherwise, but it looks like it's a straight shot down to Myrtle Beach.
It is. If we get an interstate, it'll be a straighter shot.
That's right, yes. Now, of course, the city of Myrtle Beach, I guess, doesn't get directly involved with plans, or do they? Future plans for the interstate, or is it groups like the Chamber and these and others?
Certainly our city manager, Tom Leith, and the members of City Council have been a part of the Chambers and the Hospitality Association's overall effort to secure funding for an interstate system, absolutely. It's not a city project, and yet we recognize how important it is to the city and to the region as a whole, so we are doing all we can to further that effort to get an interstate here.
I think I'm correct that prior to coming to Myrtle Beach, you were in Laurinburg?
I did. I spent 3 years in Laurinburg, actually. So.
Another city that is having a lot to do in thinking about plans for a future interstate.
That's true, because either 73 or 74 comes through Rockingham, I guess, at this point.
Right around.
And it's coming right around there. So Laurinburg's a growing community.
Did you attend school in the Carolinas, Mark?
I did. I went to Wake Forest a long time ago. So.
Yes. Not too long ago, so that it was in Wake Forest, North Carolina.
No, not that long ago. It's in Winston-Salem, in fact.
And you studied?
I was an English major.
Is that right?
In college.
What did you thought about, you know, while you're in school? It's so funny when we think about kids, 18 to 22, where they begin planning out for the rest of their life. Had you thought you'd ever be in a position like this, or you'd
I don't know that I had thought that, no, but I had started in radio in high school and continued that some at Wake Forest as a part-time job in Winston-Salem, and sort of fell into the news media as a virtue of that first part-time job back in high school, and continued that. You know, when I grow up, maybe I'll figure out what I want to do. But for the moment, this is pretty good.
Time will tell. That's right. You spent some time in radio. Did you ever spend any time on camera and TV?
I did. I 9 or 10 years or so in radio as a news director in North and South Carolina, and then 3 years as a television bureau chief in 4 Greenville, WYFF in Greenville, South Carolina. I was the Spartanburg bureau chief for YFF for 3 years.
Is that right? Wow, you're friendly 4.
Yes, your friend 4.
Your friend 4,
Your friend
forgive
4.
me. That's right. That's a very strong station up there. And of course, the interesting part of that TV market is much like this: 2 principal cities in South Carolina and 1 in North Carolina.
One in North Carolina, in fact. It's one of those split markets. It was a fairly good-sized market at the time. I think it was number 36 in the country when I was there.
It's
and
34 or 5 now, yes.
Bit,
Absolutely. A very large market. That would be a fabulous group to have worked with. And of course, the idea of getting, had you gone straight from YFF into a position there in Laurinburg? Or?
I made the transition from radio to television to public relations, all in Spartanburg, believe it or not. I had an opportunity to work for a law enforcement agency there, so I had a chance for 3 years to see the inside of law enforcement and how they accomplish all the wonderful things that they do, which is a fairly amazing process. I was a civilian, not a sworn officer, but that was a great experience.
Do you still have family in the Carolinas?
I do. They've all moved to Raleigh. So when I go home is Raleigh, but I've never lived in Raleigh, so it's a little strange, but that's where they are.
That's part of the reason why Brunswick County beaches or New Hanover area is attractive, is that straight shot down and interstate.
That's it.
Straight shot down and interstate. What are some of those things about the city? You know, when you think about some of the more remarkable aspects, it's much like what you were talking about, a permanent population of 23,000 that averages around 100,000. What are some of those other aspects that viewers may not think about? And of course, as you know, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD. And
one of the challenges for us is that we have residential right up against commercial, and balancing that on a daily basis is a real challenge. That's something difficult that we have to do on a regular basis to meet the commercial needs and the residential needs without alienating one or the other. And then people don't realize what a 24-hour operation we are. We literally have someone who's out raking the beach at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you're on Ocean Boulevard at 4 o'clock in the morning, you'll see crews beginning to empty trash cans and pick up litter on Ocean Boulevard at 4 in the morning. Obviously, fire and police are 24-hour-a-day operations, but the water treatment plant can turn out 40 million gallons of water a day, which for a town of 23,000 is like 10 times more than they really need. So it's a much more involved operation than it would appear, I guess, just to the casual observer.
Right, 40 million gallons a day. What would be a typical city size? I mean, what would Spartanburg? Or?
That's actually more than Spartanburg would need,
really?
I think, on a regular basis. On July 4th, for example, we're pumping 30 million gallons of that 40 million gallons right now.
So, son of a gun,
yeah.
That's incredible. Mark, and of course, you know, when folks think of as we were talking about, they think about Myrtle Beach, they may think of even parts of Surfside or Garden City or Socastee as being Myrtle Beach. What are the boundaries of the city of Myrtle Beach when folks think about it? This goes down to here.
It does. On the south end, it goes down pretty much to the former front gate of the Air Force Base, where Ocean Boulevard turns back into Kings Highway, Business 17. On the north end, at the moment, we've annexed really up to the VFW post, but there are some zigs and zags, some donut holes there. So not quite to Restaurant Row. Restaurant Row is not inside the city of Myrtle Beach. Colonial Mall is not inside the city of Myrtle Beach. But past the Carolina Opry, that's inside the city of Myrtle Beach, up towards Grand Dunes.
Right.
And then west, pretty much the bypass is the general line. However, with Grand Dunes growing over the last few years, we actually are across the waterway on Grand Dunes.
Is that right? So that's where you all jumped the waterway.
Yes.
It was Grand Dunes.
Yes.
That was the first time the city had jumped the waterway.
Yes, it was. And that was back in 2000. So we're still growing pretty rapidly.
You know, it's so fascinating. Now, if your position as public information officer, share with the viewer exactly why I mean, of course, there's a dramatic need for a public information officer, but why don't the council folks just speak on their own, or how does that work? Well, of course, they do.
And they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they do. But it's nice to have somebody as a focal point to handle all the inquiries that come in, not just from the media, but from the public as well in some cases, because I get all the email that comes to the city's website too. But it's nice for the news media to have somebody to go to ask the question to try to get an answer. And frequently I'll say, I don't know, but I'll find out and get back to you. It's just good to have that central point. It makes life easier for us, it makes life easier for them, and we can make sure that the information gets out there. But I do a tremendous number of things besides talking to the news media on a regular basis.
Oh, yes. And speaking of that, speaking of the public getting to you, if a viewer needs to get off to school now or get out to work, what's the best number, or is there a website? What's the best way to reach or to learn more about the city?
Both, actually. You can feel free to call. My direct number is 918-1014, so you can call that directly. Okay. We have a website that you're welcome to access, and there's a fair amount of information on the website about Myrtle Beach, and that's www.cityofmyrtlebeach.com. Just spell out cityofmyrtlebeach.com. And you'll find a tremendous amount about the city, both from a visitor standpoint, from a resident standpoint, a business perspective, and then about the government itself.
Absolutely, and it really does lay out a heck of a lot on there, as well as, now y'all also put out a monthly or quarterly report about what's happening within the city.
We do an internal newsletter for the staff on a monthly basis that's available on the website. We do a progress report that goes out in our utility bills to the residents who get our utility notices, about 15,000 of those quarterly. An annual report on a regular basis. So there's a lot of additional information that you can get either on the website or if you're on the receiving end of one of our publications.
Folks who may not have access to the internet at home, of course, can visit a library, can visit, there's a heck of a lot of places to access it because there is a plethora of information. City's comprehensive plan, a lot of the Downtown Redevelopment Corporation, their plans
some
and
of their
work. Accomplishments
and plans are on there as well.
Absolutely, as well as you say, the annual report and access to that, and of course, information about all the city council city council members, and I'm sure about the other administration folks. So there's a heck of a lot. Some of the things I saw in that most recent quarterly report in my utility bill. Some of the aspects about a new fire station that's going up.
True. We're adding a fire station at 38th Avenue North, which will give us 6 inside the city of Myrtle Beach. We have an ISO rating of 1, which is the best in South Carolina. There are fewer than 50 communities in the country that have an ISO rating of 1, so we're extremely pleased with that. That means our fire insurance rates are lower than they would be in other places.
Oh, yeah.
It's a wonderful thing to be one of only 50 out of some 25,000 communities in the country.
That is fantastic, Mark. Yeah. Bruce Arnell was with us about 3 months ago, and then last month Dan Walker was with us highlighting that. And, of course, Gary Teachow was with us back in October when Fire Safety Month was around, or Fire Prevention Month, and of course he's really thinking about, he talks about how dramatic that impacts small business and large businesses with their insurance provisions there. And
it does, particularly for the commercial side of life. It's much more savings for the commercial side of life than it is the residential, but the residents will save money as well. Yeah,
so a tremendous thing, and the efforts that the folks, the fire men and women in the community, or the efforts they're making to keep up a rating like that.
And that really was a team effort. You think it's just the fire department, but it's not. We have to, as part of the ISO test, they come in and test our water supply, make sure that we have the water supply to put out a fire wherever it occurs, and make sure that our dispatching system is capable of handling it. So we got good ratings on both of those, and then we got a perfect score on our training for our fire department. We have a great training program for the fire department.
Speaking of training, right down the street from us, I believe there's a police training facility here on the former Air Force Base.
There is. We have an annex, is what we call it, and that's where most of the investigative division is based. A lot of our community service is based there at the annex, and then our training and our firearms facility is based here at the annex as well, just down the street.
I think in that same quarterly report there was something about a Citizens Police Academy.
Yeah, that's been very successful. And I had to ask the other day, gee, are we really graduating the 10th class? We've been doing that for 5 years, and people have a blast. They come spend 10 weeks, one day a week, a couple hours for that day, and find out what it takes to be a police officer. They learn about crime scene investigation. They learn about domestic violence, how to drive. They actually get to drive a police car in a closed course for a little while. They learn about dispatching. They have to ride along with each of the divisions in the police department for 5 hours, for a total of 25 hours.
Wow.
So it's very intense. And the folks love it. They have a great time with that course. We'll do it again in the fall.
Part of the reason you all would have set up a police academy, again, these are efforts, are these done in all communities, or is this just indicative?
No, it is something that's offered in some places. Given that we have to be so involved in the community, and by community I mean both the residents and the visitors, that we have to meet and greet thousands, almost millions literally, of visitors on an annual basis. Our police department is just wonderful. They're tremendous at dealing with people. And this is sort of an outgrowth of that. It's a chance to let people see what a great organization the police department is.
And speaking of reaching out to a heck of a lot of visitors, I believe the friendship team was also highlighted in that quarterly report.
Absolutely. The friendship team has been around for 8 or 9 years now, and it's something that we do for the big motorcycle-related events during May. And we ask residents to come join us. It's a great way, if you're going to be in town for either the Harley-Davidson event or the Atlantic Beach Memorial Day event, come join the friendship team. We walk up and down Ocean Boulevard with our friendship team t-shirts on and greet visitors, answer questions, literally put a friendly face on the community. We're a living, breathing city. You know, Disney World's pretty isolated, but we're an honest-to-goodness community, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're so popular, is that people can come and know that it's a real town. But the friendship team just puts a nice face on that, and people are welcome to come join us. We've had as many as 2,000 or 3,000 friendship team members in place in businesses around town. So the hotels, the restaurants, the stores, their folks will dress up in friendship team t-shirts as well for those 2 events. And that fluctuates from about 1,500 up to about 3,000. But come join us, call.
Folks could do that whether they live in the city or not. I mean,
Yes,
this is
they
an
could.
important thing to do to welcome these folks that are coming from all over the country to attend those 2 bike fests, but it's particularly important for residents of the city of Myrtle Beach.
Absolutely. It's a great way to get involved, to see what's going on for yourself, and to help make things better.
That 843-918-1014 number.
Yes.
It's a number of folks could call. Could they learn more about that at citymyrtlebeach.com?
They can. I'm not sure where on there, but they can. Yes, absolutely.
And do you have an email address? I mean, is there something?
And that's pretty simple. Info, I-N-F-O, at cityofmyrtlebeach.com. If you want to email me, that's fine. It'll come right to me.
I saw there's a lot of things going on with the Downtown Redevelopment Corporation, Mark.
There are, and I think you're just about to see an explosion of new redevelopment in that downtown area. The Downtown Redevelopment Corporation covers the area from 14th North to 6th Avenue South, out to Kings Highway, actually across Kings Highway in a couple of spots, but out to Kings Highway. And it's almost 300 acres, and they've got a lot going on in that area to revitalize it. Certainly if you've been on Ocean Boulevard in the last year or so, you've seen the underground utilities, the new sidewalks, the street trees. It looks great. But beyond that, we're getting new businesses, some new residential development in that area. I think we're just on the edge of a real spurt in growth for the downtown area.
300 acres,
Yes.
Mark. And I think if folks take that time, and if they can't visit citymyrtlebeach.com and see the heck of a lot of accomplishments there, is there another place that they could get information? Can they visit City Hall, or do you all?
Absolutely. And we'll be glad to do a tour, say, of the water treatment plant for a school group or something like that. A tour of the law enforcement center if you've got a school group. But do stop by City Hall. We're happy to have visitors and would be pleased to talk to you.
That's a great, we got about 7 minutes. And, you know, when you think about accomplishments of different groups, you see the 10th Police Academy graduating.
Yes.
You see all of the accomplishments of the Downtown Redevelopment Corporation. You see even the success of things that folks may not think, parking meters, and how those may have a tremendous impact on the city and cutting, reducing tax. I mean, what did the budget, go ahead.
Yeah, but parking meters are one of those things that I don't know that anybody likes a parking meter, truthfully. But Myrtle Beach is a fairly young town. We didn't exist as a town until 1938 and a city until 1957. So we've sort of grown up helter-skelter. And our parking system was unmanaged, if you will. Putting parking meters in has done a number of things. First of all, it's given us some control over the parking itself so that we can determine this space is public and anybody can use this space. There's no confusion over whether it's a public space or not. When you've got a parking meter in front of it, you know it's a public space.
Right.
Then, as part of that process, we've eliminated the hybrid parking, and the hybrid may be unique to us for all I know. That was a space that was partly on public property and partly on private property.
Wow.
So we couldn't control it. and the private property owner couldn't control it, so we've eliminated that as well and created more parking, actually, in the downtown area as a result of that.
Great.
And then the revenue from the parking meters will be used to create additional parking downtown. We've got a plan for a parking garage that people could use and some other surface parking. So the meter money is actually going to pay for more parking downtown.
Okay, that's tremendous. Yeah, and those are other things that folks, if they have questions, you want folks to call you.
True, absolutely. Let us know if you've got something that you're curious about.
Or just visit thecitymyrtlebeach.com, and again, they can visit the library. And speaking of libraries, there are quite a few. I mean, there's the city houses.
Yep, Myrtle Beach has its own library. Chapin Memorial Library is the city's. We have the only city-owned library in the state of South Carolina.
Is that right?
That really is true. Libraries are typically a county function.
Sure.
But ours is there. Everybody uses it. It's a great public library, a tremendous resource right there in the downtown area.
Another thing in the what I guess I'd consider the downtown area at that the Myrtle Beach train depot.
Right, and the train depot is such a neat building inside. If you've been inside it, it's not very big, all things considered, but it's a pretty building. It dates back to 1936, and has been restored here in the last couple of years thanks to the All Aboard Committee and their fine efforts. But it's a gorgeous building inside. The rafters are open on the inside. You get an old feeling for the wooden train depot platforms and the brick walls. It really is a very attractive building inside. And just won, last week, a Historic Preservation Award from the state of South Carolina.
Is that right?
Yes. So congratulations to the All Aboard Committee and the architect who volunteered his time to make that happen.
Volunteers, you know, of course, we think of the city of Myrtle Beach, we think of the 800 employees of the city or the folks who work together to make the city tick all year round. All 24 hours a day. Are volunteers ever actively involved in the city?
They are, and they work in a number of places, from recreation to the library. We have some volunteers at the police department. The volunteers who serve on the committees, the Planning Commission, the Community Appearance Board, they're not paid for that service.
That's right, DRC.
They might be a good thing to pay them, but they have to put up with a tremendous amount. I think all told, we have just over 600 people who volunteer in some capacity or another for the city of Myrtle Beach. So we figure they save us $1.5 million a year pretty much by not having to pay them for the time and effort they put forth on the city's behalf.
What are three of the, you know, when you think of most frequently asked questions, Mark, what are some of the things that you get most often directed to you either by email at the info@citymyrtlebeach.com or when folks call your 843-918-1014 number or stop you on the street?
Yes, I get questions about things that are going on in the political world. What's council going to do? And I can't predict what council's going to do. So that's certainly one category. The emails come in from all over the country.
Sure.
So you'd be amazed at the variety of questions that come in. Frequently, people want to know what the weather's going to be like 2 months from now. And I can't predict the weather tomorrow, much less in July. So I have to explain a little meteorology to them that, I don't know, my crystal ball's not that good.
Yes.
People from the Midwest who are thinking about relocating here, this happens more than once, have asked, gee, do y'all have hurricane warnings as frequently as we have tornado warnings in the Midwest? Well, no, we don't. They're different weather phenomenon. And then you get questions about what's there to see and do, hotels, amusements, nightlife, golf. You get the full panoply of the tourism-related questions.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of emails that you are forwarding to others,
yes,
it sounds
the
like.
Chamber of Commerce is I've got them on speed email.
On the red line there, I bet. What about, you think about how the city may have even morphed over the 6-7 years. The year you arrived, Mark, was?
1998.
Okay, so almost 7 years now. What are some of the biggest changes that have happened in the city over your 7-year tenure?
Well, a couple of things. Certainly the new roads in the city and immediately around the city have made a tremendous difference. We've seen literally $1 billion worth of road construction in the last 5 years and still have some that's coming. I think that's probably number one. Number two is something the city's done and was the first in the Carolinas to do. We partnered with Santee Cooper to create a fund to put utility lines underground. And if you've driven on Grissom Parkway, Harrelson Boulevard, Ocean Boulevard, it makes a tremendous difference when those utility lines aren't overhead. It just looks so much better. Oh, yeah. And the reason for doing that is twofold. One, it looks better, but two, we're on the coast in case of a hurricane. Those utility lines aren't safe when they're up in the air, so putting them underground helps protect them from a hurricane.
Go ahead. No,
that's fine.
Yeah, we've got less than a minute. Are the beaches ready? Are they ready
Absolutely.
for folks to come
and
visit?
they've been busy in the last couple of weeks with slightly better weather. The spring breakers are here from the high schools, so the beaches are ready. We're working on them all the time. Absolutely.
Whether folks are coming in from Salisbury or they're coming in from Laurinburg or they're traveling down 501 and hitting 22, people are taking advantage of the roads. Whether they feed into the city of Myrtle Beach or feed right around us, they are constantly being used to get to the beach.
True. And we've had a good winter. I hope that the spring continues that and the summer bodes well for us. We've had a great winter, actually.
Absolutely. Mark, thanks so much for being with us this
You're
morning.
welcome. Glad to do it.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Mark Kruea coming up next. How many guests give their direct line? How many folks give their direct phone number? 843-918-1014. You know, folks are really gravitating towards their job. And their job as public information officer is just that. He wants you to give them a call. He also wants you to take the time to visit them online. cityofmyrtlebeach.com. That's not his website. That's the city's website, but he updates it. You can also tune in if you live in the city of Myrtle Beach, Channel 15, MBTV. There's a lot of great information on there about what's happening in the city, updates on stormwater, updates about Myrtle's market or activities throughout the city that you may not be aware of. Take the time to go online, cityofmyrtlebeach.com, or give them a call again, 843-918-1014. He wants the city to be informed.